Hello everyone, today I'm going to be taking a look at a pair of Inperatorius Vindex from 8-Legged Miniatures and also a mad scrap truck. Alright folks, the first model we're going to look at is the Knight of Eternal Shields. So this is a STL that you can already download from the MyMiniFactory page for 8-Legged Miniatures. As you can see, comes leg, torso, arms, shoulder pads, weapon and shield. They are all fairly chunky, relatively robust. Now these are obviously STLs. These have been printed out by Kinross tabletop tokens. So depending on your setup, you may have slightly different finish on your prints or whatever, but it should give you a good idea of how they look. Also comes with a large base, which is standard 30mm, and he will stand proudly on that. I have a built one here, so we can take a look at it in a bit more detail, and it comes with a base topper. So if I shift those to one side, you can see the base toppers are just set so that you can insert the base on it. You get about 1mm of a lip from your 3mm tall base, so it just sort of hovers above the table, and it's got a nice stone paving effect. So like I say, this one you can already get as an STL to test, see how it looks for you, and then it's just a case of assembling it. So you've got some posability, head, torso and arms, and also I suppose with the weapon as well, because they are separate. So you can just glue it together in a very short amount of time. Big, chunky, brutal looking figure. Obviously these are going to be in here for Custodes-like gameplay. He is around 35mm to where his eyes would be, or 40 to the top of his fancy helmeted hair. But there's some really nice detail in here. The scaling at the back of the shield, for example, is mirrored on the back of his helmet. Hopefully you can see that. So he's like a scale mail guard around him. You can see the vents with these big arcing sort of arched buttressing type affair going on. So it has that blend of medieval meets science fiction that obviously is in there for 40k. The weapon itself is brutal. What looks like a twin bolter. So they've used the magazines to make the bolter sword quillions going across the top, which is an interesting touch. Hadn't thought of how they would do that. I like it. I don't know if GW have a sword for their Custodes, but if you're looking for some big armoured lads, this obviously gives you a good idea. In case you're wondering, base topper itself is 40mm by 40mm, though obviously recessed in places. That's the Knight of Eternal Shields. There is another who doesn't have a name, but this one is a more baroque fellow. Again, same sort of build, legs, torso, arms, head separate, along with the massive shoulder pads. So obviously these are Marines. If you're going to be playing 40k or one-page rules or whatever it happens to be. But I do think they have a really chunky Warcraft aesthetic to them. I could see these as fantasy quite easily. Again, I have a built one rather than going through all of the individual bits, because they are going to be STLs. So depending on your printing, your essentially the STL is the thing you're buying. It's not this particular printed version. So I don't want to dwell on things like production, because the production's excellent. Then if you're at home printing yourself, I imagine you're capable of that as well. So this fellow, if you sign up in advance of the Frontier going live, then I believe he is going to be another free download that I think you get as soon as you sign up to it, to the waiting list, essentially, to be notified when it happens. So you can get both of these miniatures in one foul swoop. This guy's got a much more captain feel to him, with an absolutely ridiculous axe. He is closer to 40mm at eye level, so a bit taller. And that axe is half his height, 20mm long. I mean, it's redonkulous, which is what you want, I suppose, in life. So some really nice details across it, like the face is repeated on knees and on belt buckle. This is why I get certain Warcraft feels, because it reminds me of Wrath of the Lich King. Again, has the same sort of underlying armor at the core, but then you have the detailed shoulder pads, the impressive winged helm, and then the big wing coming off the pauldron as well. So he has a more elite feel, which is saying something, because they're already elite in many regards. But they're a nice set of figures. If you're planning on doing something like Custodes, or I'm not sure what their name of the faction is in one-page rules, that would be the equivalent, then these are definitely a decent way to go. And you can pick up both of these for free just by, well, that one you can get straight off the MyMiniFactory page if you want to get the Knight of Eternal Shields. Obviously, because they've gone with a flat fixing point on the limbs, so it's a flat, not a ball socket joint. Poses are relatively limited when you turn them, but it has the benefit of being easier to print. So you've got a nice robust figure that really looks the part. And if you plan on filling a shelf with a ton of big golden boys, then this is definitely one to have a look at. Now, let's have a look at something slightly different from them, which is already available. Okay, so the Mad Scrap Truck is one of several vehicles that they have just for the greenskins. They've been doing a lot of different miniatures for various races for to use as alternatives in 40k. And as you can see, this one's got all the bells and whistles. I will start by saying there are options. So you can see we have some rockets going whiz-bang there on the top. If I just shuffle that out of the way for a second, you actually get 3 different weapons, and each of the weapons has a variant here. So you can see this is the little rocket pods or missile pods that are not firing if you don't like all of the explosions. There's also that massive twinned shooter on the side where all of the gas is being vented through the exhaust ports on the side of it, as some more shots are being laced out. So they've a very extravagant look to the explosions here. Now these are cast on or printed as one part, if you will. You could magnetize these. What they have done is actually magnetize the rocket version. So if I lift off this, you can see the rockets are going in every direction, which is properly orky. It's all kind of here, there, and everywhere. But for transport and to make life easier, these have actually been magnetized as well. So if you want to get from A to B and you're worried about those crazy rockets exploding all over there, you don't need to worry too much. You can just go right ahead and pop them on, pop them off. Taking a closer look at the vehicle. So it has a turret on the back, which is again another option for magnetization, just a little rounded dome turret. But the drag itself is absolutely superb. It has almost a Cadillac feel with these fins on the back, going into those exhausts, which could be a Cadillac, could be the Batmobile from the 60 series. You've got extra speed / nitros here. We have this big honking front with this blade attachment, which is sort of another triple layer chainsaw thing. And then a 3-wheeled track on the front as well is awesome. And that huge honking, I suppose you would call it a V8. Big engine, pumping away. Again, this front shooter or grenade launcher, whatever it is, it also has a firing version. And likewise, these are the shooters for that, as you can see, on or off. So there's just the external ports where the smoke is venting from. It's absolutely a wild. I love it a bit. The big orky dags and scrap everywhere. And even though most people won't see it, if there is a transmission, because obviously how does it work if you don't have a proper transmission there? So it's a big piece of resin. For those at home wondering, let me bring it in here. It is 150 millimeters, almost 152, from blades to the fins on the back. The wheels are double depth, so double wheeled, but it does also come with single versions. So if you don't want the wheels extending, although if you don't have the wheels extending, I find it's sort of very front heavy. I like the feel of the double wheels at the back. It gives it some girth. There's a bit of room to slide that orc around. There is a little control panel there. And also if he sits in the middle, which is where I was going to put him originally when I seen this cage. And then I realized he wouldn't be able to see out to drive. As it is, he's going to be fairly restricted in what he can see between that gap. But I suppose as long as he's going forward, it doesn't really matter. So yes, interesting bit of kit from the guys at 8-Legged Miniatures. And just goes to show that they've a range of talented artists working on a whole diverse range of miniatures as well, be it the orc side, more chaotic, elven, whatever it happens to be. They've got a lot going on there, and the detail of the sculpts is excellent. So it's worth having a wee nosy at. So there you go, folks. Some nice chunky looking figures if you plan on playing something like the Custodes, or if you fancy pushing into fantasy. They're, I mean, not a million miles away from something Warcraft-esque. So you might be able to put together an interesting army of paladin type of people for your fantasy games as well, depending on the figures you pick. There are quite a lot of pieces in that campaign, so 200 STLs available from 8-Legged Miniatures, so there's plenty to play around with. And well, what can I say about that mad scrap truck? I think I've said most of it in the unboxing. It's an amazing piece of kit, which just goes to show the sort of diversity within the group, the collective that is 8-Legged Miniatures. Let me know what you think below. Until next time, bye-bye.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.